Hello everyone! So it seems that the new trend now with these modern consoles is the drift in the analog sticks, and I'm quite curious to find the answer on this issue. The Joy-Con is indeed the worst case, but drift is happening on the DualShock 4, DualSense, and even Xbox controllers. So what really is the drift? And is there a way that you can avoid it? Is there any controllers that are drift-proof? I'd say that there are two origins for the stick drift. And to showcase them, let's go back to not the first, but the most popular analog stick. If you had a Nintendo 64, you are probably familiar with the issue with these analog sticks. With many hours of gameplay, the plastic pieces started to grind and deteriorate, destroying the reading mechanism in the Nintendo 64 case. This results on the analog stick gaining dead zones where the stick movement doesn't affect the game at all. So the first cause for the stick drift is the wear of the plastic components inside the stick, creating a dead zone for the analog stick. However, in some cases the dead zone can create a slightly off-center reading of the stick, and this can also be perceived as drift. So let's call this drift type 1. Then we have another failure, as we already know with the Joy-Con drift. This failure is different. In this failure, the stick is completely fine, but the reading of the stick position gets compromised. This failure happens because usually there is a problem with the potentiometer part. So let's call this drift type 2. Interestingly, the Nintendo 64 uses an optical mechanism to detect positions, which means that it is completely immune to type 2 drift. And if we solve the deterioration of the sticks, we'll solve completely the problem. And that is what this project aims to do. Steel Sticks created a metal stick for the Nintendo 64, solving the analog problem completely. If you wanna check it out, I'll leave a link to their website in the description. But what if I told you that there are other controllers immune to type 2 drifting? And that they are right here. Can you already guess what controllers are these? Yes, the PlayStation 3 and Dreamcast controllers are completely drift-proof, at least from drift type 2 problems. And let's see why. Here I have assembled the Dreamcast controller already, so it's easier for you to see the components. And you can already see that the analog stick is much different from modern consoles. Everything is made of plastic, and if you get inside by removing these screws here, then you can see that these are, let me focus here, these are magnetic sensors that reads the distance from the small magnets here. So when you move the analog stick, there are small magnets inside that changes their positions. And these four sensors, they detect the distance between the magnet and the sensor. Interesting, right? And it's the same thing for the triggers. Each trigger has a small magnet and a sensor on the other side. So when you press the trigger, the magnetic field changes and the sensor can detect that. Now let's move on to the PS3 controllers. Keep in mind that Sony changed the design of their controllers by the end of its lifespan, meaning that you have two versions of the DualShock 3. If your potentiometer has 3 legs, then it's a graphite pad potentiometer. And if it has 4 legs, it means it's a magnetic potentiometer. So here I have my PlayStation 3 controller disassembled, and this is the potentiometer. And you can see here that it has 4 legs. If you remove this part, you will see that it has no wiper and no graphite pad. when you move the stick, it changes the entire position of these piece. And if you pick up a screw, you can see that it's attracted to the piece. It's a magnetic sensor, just like the Dreamcast. So this stick will never fail. No matter how long you play with it and no matter how many cycles goes on, it will always read perfectly. The case with this stick is that it has damage on the plastic part. So you can see it's like stuck there. And that's it. Well, I think Sony, Nintendo and Microsoft should consider redesigning their controllers and adopt this magnetic potentiometer. This would solve drift problems with all controllers and save us gamers from having so many headaches with these problems. If you like this video and learned something new here, then share it with your friends. If we make people aware of these problems and how it could be easily avoided, then the companies might feel inclined to make these changes in the future. See you next time!